Uh, Good morning, and welcome to the virtual annual meeting of stockholders of Jet.AI, Inc. I'm Michael Winston, Chairman and Interim CEO of Jet.AI. I now call this meeting to order. Also present from Dyke & McGossett PLLC is Kate Betchen. Ms. Betchen, at my request, will be acting as the secretary of today's meeting. Representing Continental Stock Transfer and Trust, which has been appointed to act as inspector of election for this meeting, is Michael Godecki. Before getting started, there are a few procedural matters I would like to go through. On the meeting webpage, you will find the agenda for this meeting. In addition, the proposals we are presenting and voting on are listed as well. You may use click here to vote your proxy if you wish to vote or change your vote or your prior vote during this meeting. Also, we will not be entertaining questions. Mr. Secretary, would you please provide us with a report regarding the calling of the meeting and whether a quorum is present to transact business?
Thank you, Michael.
Should say Madam
I've been
Secretary.
informed. I've been informed that more than 33 1/3 of the votes entitled to vote at this meeting are either represented in person via live audio only webcast or by proxy. Accordingly, a quorum is present. A complete alphabetical list of the shareholders of record entitled to notice of this shareholders meeting, arranged by voting group and the number and class of shares held by each, was made open for examination for purposes germane to this meeting for a period of 10 days prior to today's meeting date. Just before the meeting was convened, the Inspector of Elections, Michael Godecki, took and signed an oath to faithfully execute the duties of inspector with strict impartiality and according to the best of his abilities. Mr. Godecki has also provided a certificate as to the number of shares of Jet.AI common stock present in person via the webcast or represented by proxy at the meeting. And with the Secretary's report and declaration of quorum concluded, I now hand the meeting back to the Chairman and CEO, Mike Winston.
Thank you, Ms. Benton. There are 8 matters scheduled for a vote today. First, with respect to Proposal 1, regarding the election of each of Lieutenant Colonel Rand David and Jeffrey Woods as Class 1 directors who are elected by a plurality, the nominees receiving the most for votes will be elected as directors. You may vote for all the nominees, or you may withhold your vote for any of the nominees you specify. Broker non-votes on Proposal 1 will have no effect. Second, for Proposal 2, to ratify approval of Hacker, Johnson & Smith, PA, as the company's independent registered public accounting firm for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2024, such proposal must receive a for vote from the majority of all shares present and entitled to vote either in person or by proxy. You may vote for or against, or you may abstain from voting. Abstentions will have the same effect as against votes on Proposal 2. Third, for Proposal 3, to vote on the approval of the amended and restated 2023 Jet.AI Inc. Omnibus Incentive Plan, which sets the number of shares at 2.460 million or 2,460,000 and eliminates the automatic replenishment or evergreen provision, such proposal must receive a for vote for the majority of all shares present and entitled to vote either in person or by proxy. You may vote for or against, or you may abstain from voting. Abstentions will have the same effect as against votes on Proposal 3. Fourth, for Proposal 4, to vote to approve the potential issuance of shares underlying our Series B preferred stock as defined under NASDAQ Listing Rule 5635D. Such proposal must receive a for vote from the majority of all shares present and entitled to vote either in person or by proxy. You may vote for or against, or you may abstain from voting. Abstentions will have the same effect as against votes on Proposal 4. Fifth, for Proposal 5, to vote on the approval of the issuance of shares underlying our Series A preferred stock, also subject to NASDAQ Rule 5635D. Such proposal must receive a for vote from the majority of all shares present and entitled to vote either in person or by proxy. You may vote for or against, or you may abstain from voting. Abstentions will have the same effect as against votes on Proposal 5. 6, for Proposal 6, to amend Article 4 of our Certificate of Incorporation to increase the number of authorized shares of common stock from 55 million to 200 million. Such proposal must receive a for vote from the majority of all shares present and entitled to vote either in person or by proxy. You may vote for or against, or you may abstain from voting. Abstentions will have the same effect as against votes on Proposal 6. Seventh, Proposal 7, to vote to give the board discretion to amend our certificate of incorporation to effect a reverse stock split at a ratio between 1:2 and 1:1,000. Such proposal must receive a for vote from the majority of all shares present and entitled to vote, either in person or by proxy. You may vote for or against, or you may abstain from voting. Abstentions will have the same effect as against votes on Proposal 7. Eighth, for Proposal 8, to vote on a proposal to adjourn the annual meeting if necessary to allow further proxy solicitation, such proposal must receive a for vote from the majority of all shares present and entitled to vote, either in person or by proxy. You may vote for or against, or you may abstain from voting. Abstentions will have the same effect as against votes on Proposal 8. Let's proceed to the voting. The polls are now open for voting on all proposals. The time is now 10:06 a.m. Pacific Time. All holders of common stock and preferred stock at the close of business on August 5th, 2024 may vote virtually or by proxy. Those of you who have already voted on the internet or by returning your proxy card do not need to do anything more unless you wish to change your vote, in which case you may do so now by completing an online ballot. Anyone who has not voted by proxy and wishes to vote or change their vote via the live webcast may likewise do so now. We will now pause for 30 seconds to allow investors to vote. Okay. We now have all the ballots, and since all those desiring to vote by ballot have done so, I hereby declare the polls closed as of 10:07 a.m. Pacific Time. The ballots and proxies will be held in the possession of the Inspector of Election. The Inspector of Election will tabulate the votes. Now we move on to the results of voting. Based upon the proxies received prior to the beginning of today's meeting and the preliminary report from the Inspector of Election, I am pleased to report the following. With respect to Proposal 1, election of directors, more than 71% of the total number of votes present and entitled to be cast at the annual meeting by holders of the outstanding shares of common stock and preferred stock have been voted for each director nominee. With respect to Proposal 2, approval of the independent accounting firm, more than 95% of the total number of votes present and entitled to be cast at the annual meeting by holders of the outstanding shares of common stock and preferred stock have been voted for the approval of Hacker Johnson and Smith Public Accountants PA as our registered independent accounting firm. With respect to Proposal 3, approval of the 2023 Jet.AI Inc. amended and restated Omnibus Incentive Plan. More than 70% of the total number of votes present and entitled to be cast at the annual meeting by holders of the outstanding shares of common stock and preferred stock have been voted for the approval of the 2023 Jet.AI amended and restated Omnibus Incentive Plan. With respect to Proposal 4, approval of the issuance of securities to Ionic. More than 70% of the total number of votes present and entitled to be cast at the annual meeting by holders of the outstanding shares of common stock and preferred stock have been voted for the approval of the issuance of securities to Ionic. With respect to Proposal 5, approval of the issuance of securities to Maxim. More than 71% of the total number of votes present and entitled to be cast at the annual meeting by holders of the outstanding shares of common stock and preferred stock have been voted for the approval of the issuance of securities to Maxim. With respect to Proposal 6, approval of an amendment to our certificate of incorporation to increase the number of authorized common shares the number of authorized shares of common stock. More than 90% of the total number of votes present and entitled to be cast at the annual meeting by holders of the outstanding shares of common stock and preferred stock have been voted for the approval of an amendment to our certificate of incorporation to increase the number of authorized shares of common stock. With respect to Proposal 7, approval of the reverse stock split, more than 92% of the total number of votes present entitled to be cast at the annual meeting by holders of the outstanding common shares, holders of the outstanding shares of common stock and preferred stock have been voted for the approval of the reverse stock split. With respect to Proposal 8, approval of the adjournment proposal, more than 92% of the total number of votes present and entitled to be cast at the annual meeting by holders of the outstanding shares of common stock and preferred stock have been voted for the adjournment proposal. Based on this information, I hereby declare that Proposals 1 through 8 have been approved by the shareholders of Jet.AI. With the voting concluded, there is no further business to be conducted at today's meeting, and the meeting is hereby adjourned. Thank you for attending today's meeting. We are grateful for your interest and support. Now we move on to the company presentation section. Now that the business portion of this meeting is concluded, I'll provide some remarks about Jet.AI's business. If you're watching on our meeting webpage, you will see several slides that I will discuss. You can also visit the meeting webpage at a later time for a full replay of this meeting, including this presentation. So I guess we're on the cover slide now, which reads Investor Annual Meeting Presentation. So let's go ahead and turn to the next slide, Jet.AI Aviation Division, Capital Light Business Aviation. First, I know I've already done it, but let me do it again to thank our 30,000 shareholders for making the company possible. The purpose of this is to provide an update on where we are, where we're headed, and how we plan to get there. We became a public company in August of last year and are excited about the future. At that time, we had a stock and 2 publicly traded warrants. And we merged into a SPAC and listed on the NASDAQ. We've since completed an exchange offer to simplify our structure. Now we have one stock, one symbol, JTAI on the NASDAQ. Let's have the next, or I guess we're on the right slide now, so we'll stay there. We operate 5 aircraft, 1 Citation CJ4, 3 Honda Jets, and a King Air C90. We are based in Las Vegas, a top 5 destination for business travel. We offer aircraft fractions and whole aircraft sales. You can see from left to right on the slides. Jet card sales, which is a prepaid block of time. So there's no capital cost to the buyer, whereas in the case of fractional or a whole aircraft sale, there is. On-fleet charter, that's kind of like rent-a-car, it's just what you think it is, so one-off. Although we will sell blocks of charter time too to customers if they prefer it, and provide a more comprehensive relationship with them going forward to book lots of charters for them. The onboard program, which is if you have an aircraft and you would like us to manage it for you and charter it on your behalf, we will do so. And then finally, buyer's brokerage, which is we've had customers who want to acquire aircraft and we assist them in that effort. And those are the basic pieces of capital light business aviation. The main theme is that we don't own the aircraft and don't seek to own the aircraft, which makes for, in our view, a higher return on capital opportunity. Let's the next slide, please, which reads Jet.AI Fleet Software Solutions. Our business includes 3 pieces of software: Charter GPT, Reroute, and Dynaflight, and most recently the beta test version of Jet.AI, which is not depicted on the slide because it's still in beta, it's not been released. Jet.AI is a consumer version of Reroute, which I'll explain in just a moment. Reroute and Dynaflight are pre-revenue, but we anticipate revenue generation from them in the 4th quarter. Charter GPT, our revenue-generating software product, allows users to book private jets via iPhone or Android in natural language, always with the human in the loop, although a little later in the process of the booking. Over time, the role of the human will decrease as GPT's capabilities expand, eventually automating more of the process from communication to customer preference learning to actual outreach to the operators of aircraft. So we can go to the next slide. This will be the last slide, so we'll stay on this slide for the duration of this part of the presentation. So where we're headed and how we plan to get there. Looking ahead, we have ongoing discussions about expanding our fleet with Bombardier aircraft. Specifically, we've entered into a letter of intent and then negotiated a purchase agreement for the acquisition of Challenger 3500 aircraft, totaling around $300 million, including $65 million in firm orders and about $230 million in options. So you can think of that as 3 firm aircraft and 7 options. We've signed a term sheet to finance the progress payments related to the 2-year pre-delivery period for the Challenger transaction during which time the jets are actually built. Aside from our GEM facility, we have an Ionic Ventures preferred deal we did for $16.5 million. We have an S1 that we filed through Maxim, our investment bank, and an S3 shelf offering, which has gone effective with about 2.8 million currently available, and no debt. We can use our Ionic facility for the down payment required to kick off the fleet deal, and we're also considering debt financing as an alternative, which could expedite the process and potentially be more accretive. The rationale behind this fleet deal is clear. We don't want to own the planes, as I mentioned earlier, but we do want to sell them to others. Our model focuses on customers owning the aircraft while we manage operations. By selling planes to groups of 4 to 16 customers, which is the fractional model, we can capture a 10% margin roughly on sale, another 10% on per hour flight charges, and then $2 for every $1 of related overhead. The economics improve as the fleet grows, especially if customers are regionally concentrated, the discipline that we learned from the HondaJet program that we run today. In particular, we like the fractional model because collecting $2 for every $1 of overhead gives the operator enough cash to fly the first plane empty half the time and still break even. That means that as you add aircraft and gain scale, more cash becomes available to drop to the bottom line. The largest players in the space allocate about 80% of their fleet to the super mid-size category and above and use smaller aircraft to welcome new customers. We already have light and super light jets and have already proven our ability to execute on a $25 million fleet deal with HondaJet. Some move to a larger cabin aircraft at $65 million of size, and again about $300 million with the options, is a rational step. On the software side, shifting gears, we've significantly strengthened Charter GPT, Dynaflight, and Reroute, transforming them into robust enterprise-class products. While we started with a scrappy startup mentality, the products are now far more advanced, though we've kept that innovative spirit, I'd like to think. Our focus now is on expanding Charter GPT's functionality. Currently, it enables natural language speech when booking an aircraft, with a human stepping in to complete the process. However, the back end still relies heavily on human input rather than AI. Our next step is to automate the charter broker's work, specifically outreach and communication. This would evolve AI from just offering suggestions or predictions to actively engaging with the operators of aircraft through direct communication. We also see room for improvement in contract reconciliation between our contracts and operator agreements. The future could involve AI-powered travel agents communicating with each other. Our AI, trained in private aviation, a complex, exception-heavy space, would play a role in that. So you could imagine a more generic travel agent in the far future, or actually not that far, talking to our agent, which is an expert in private aviation. Regarding Reroute, it is designed to help operators monetize empty legs by adjusting pricing and offering high-margin, cost-saving opportunities to customers. We've reached out to around 300 operators, and the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive. The next generation of Reroute will include a trip sheet feature, which operators need most, along with a pricing tool that manages fees and bookings without requiring operators to switch back to their internal pricing systems. This streamlines the process, allowing operators to maximize savings efficiently. When we ask operators to do something new, which is to provide a price from a tweaked empty leg, and they rely on their old system, they wind up generating a price that's old that reflects little or no savings. With the new trip sheet tool, however, they have an opportunity to help share those savings, which increases the probability that they'll succeed in a booking that's highly profitable and increases the probability that the customer will achieve a booking at a lower price than a traditional charter rate. Jet.AI, which I touched on earlier, which did not appear in the prior slide, because again is in beta, is a cousin of Reroute. It is an app that allows consumers to request reroutes, making us into a broker who could credibly represent more demand to operators each day. The Reroute engine is a new source of spontaneous aircraft inventory and so is significant for that reason. In the fourth quarter, we plan to make a sales push behind Dynaflight primarily in Europe with the help of Flex, where we have recently done an integration and plan to continue to push for integrations with similar so-called FOSS software. So, we filed an S3 and an S1, and while I can't comment on those, I can direct your attention there. Again, let's see if I've got it all covered here. Yeah, There we go. Again, this has been Mike Winston, and thank you to our 30,000 shareholders for making the company possible. We hope this update on where we are, where we're headed, and how we plan to get there has been helpful. This concludes my presentation. I wish to thank, again, all of our investors for supporting Jet.AI and being part of our outstanding growth.